Man dreams of flight. We want to conquer every region that our eyes can see. Who says the sky is for birds and space is for the stars? I am a man, and everything is for me. If I want to sail through the air without a care in the world, the only things that can stop me are the laws of physics, which is just a fancy phrase for I didn't try hard enough. Thanks to modern science, if I wanted to dominate outer space, I could hop aboard a privately funded space program's rocket with my $500,000 ticket and tell NASA to go fuck itself, rejecting me just because my sitting blood pressure is catastrophically high and would not survive the stresses of spaceflight. What do space doctors know anyway? This is Earth, not space. If I want to kiss the stratosphere, that's between me and my comically large weather balloon. Stop being concerned with me passing out from a lack of oxygen. I'm an American. We invented oxygen. And don't patronize me by telling me all the pitfalls of standard air travel. I love getting on a plane in a seat that's too small for any regular-sized adult, with my knees jammed up into my chest, turning my electronics to airplane mode even though their signal frequencies don't interfere with modern plane equipment in any way, and of course the fun appetizer of fighting my way tooth and nail through the TSA, praying to God, Krishna, and Buddha that I don't need a particularly ill-tempered fist shoved up my ass to make sure I'm not smuggling a non-travel size bottle of peanut butter onto the plane. Oh Lord, that is just peak human ecstasy. But what if I want to go to the moon? What if I want to go and finally prove with my own taste buds whether or not it's made of cheese? What if I want to find the rabbit that lives there and give him my phone number and see if he's down for some Smash Brothers? And most importantly, what if I wanted to do it, 400 years before the invention of the first spaceship? Well then, maybe I could ask Wan Hu. Wan Hu, you might be asking? No. Wan Hu. That's his name. The one I'm referring to is Wan Hu, the world's first, maybe, astronaut. I first want to stress that this story may or may not be real. There's conflicting sources on whether or not Wan Hu's tale was something that actually happened, or if it's a Chinese folklore passed down for generations, or if it's a story made up in the West during Europe's, oh boy, Chinoisery period. Hang on. Chinoisery, apparently, is how that's pronounced. During Europe's chinoiserie period. Now, chinoiserie is a fancy historian word for that time Europe thought China was a super magical faraway land and decided to copy everything they did and write stories about them like they were Marvel fucking superheroes. Regardless, there will probably be about 30 different Chinese folklore and European chinoiserie historians in the comments ready to correct absolutely everything I'm about to tell you, because this is YouTube, where everyone is an expert on everything. But when has fiction ever stopped someone as powerful as me? The last story I was told, the last book I read, and the last wife I just married were all fictional. So let's talk about this tale with the unbridled optimism that someone as brave, stupid, adventurous, and big-dicked as Wan Hu could exist. Most accounts say Wan Hu existed around 1500 AD. He was a government official who was bored out of his mind and didn't like sitting around in 16th century China because they hadn't invented TikTok yet. And after all, that meant he couldn't get the joy of watching the government systematically censor it into the ground. Wan Hu craved to leave a name for himself. He wanted to do something that no one had ever done before, and to make sure that American school children will recite the Pledge of Hu Allegiance in their schools to fight communism. China at this time was going through a strict period of isolationism, so exploration and using the government's money for any business outside of the country was heavily discouraged. Wan Hu felt that the way things were going, he'd never get the opportunity to discover and conquer a new land, or make a name for himself, or invent a new flavor of Pop-Tarts, which is stupid because everyone knows that brown sugar cinnamon is the best flavor. Get the low-fat ones. They taste better. It's probably the extra sugar. So Wan Hu did what we all do when we're lonely and need to pretend our friends are important. Wan Hu turned to the stars and tried to claim them as his own. Specifically, Wan Hu wanted to explore the moon. Wan Hu then did what any rational person would do. He constructed a spaceship out of a sturdy bamboo chair, 2 large kites, and 47 of the largest gunpowder rockets he could find. Keep in mind the era in which this is happening. There is no space travel, there are no airplanes, and there was no hint of irony in doing this. Today, this would be a Jackass-style stunt put on a YouTube channel featuring someone slowly losing relevancy and their composure about no longer having an audience. But back in the Ming Dynasty, this was how you got to the moon. Wan Hu had his servants light all the rockets simultaneously, and then there was a brilliant flash of light, alongside a huge rupturous cloud of smoke and a deafening sound. When all the confusion and dust had cleared, Wan Hu's servants saw that he and his homemade space shuttle had completely disappeared. Many people to this day say Wan Hu took off to the moon that day, or at least made it to outer space, where he probably felt an unbridled sense of adventure, excitement, and wonder as he cemented himself as the world's first astronaut, and a legend amongst the great explorers of the world. He died happy, knowing his new place in history, and either sits on the moon or roams the stars, even to this day, preserved for all time as a man of unconquerable spirit. Or more realistically, he exploded and fucking died. Mythbusters, a show as terribly paced as the overly long YouTube videos that rip them off. I mean, seriously, 20 minutes of content just to show literally 1 minute of explanation and 1 minute of action? Are you insane? Recreated the Wan Hu fable back in 2004. The chair exploded on the launch pad, and the crash test dummy they used was covered in fatal burns. They even tried using modern rockets instead of ancient Chinese fireworks and found there was virtually no way to keep the chair stable during its flight, causing it to go haywire, crash, and fucking explode. They even compromised by calculating what would happen if the rocket chair used smaller, stable rockets and found the chair wouldn't attain enough lift to travel very far at all. And yet, Wan Hu succeeded. He fully succeeded, actually. Wan Hu's initial goal and boredom were sparked by a desire to explore and conquer and leave a lasting legacy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to the Wan Hu Crater, an impact crater on the moon, named after Wan Hu. Look, I'm not confirming or denying any stories, but I will say this, and I'll say it loudly for emphasis. Wan Hu was a man who built a spaceship to go to the moon. And there's an impact crater, aka a crater made from something impacting, on the moon, named after Wan Hu. Hint, hint, hint. The next time you have a dream like drinking the entire ocean or juggling 3 elephants or watching 10 minutes of ABC programming without cringing, and someone says to you, hey, you can't do that, that's impossible. Tell them it is possible, because a man who may or may not have existed did it once. That man was maybe Wan Hu.